Why are my children in the garage? I asked, my voice deadly calm as I heard muffled crying through the door. They were being disruptive, my mother-in-law Constance replied smoothly, adjusting her diamond necklace. My book club doesn't need to hear shrieking children. They're 2 and 4 years old, and this door is locked from the outside. Well, we couldn't have them wandering back in, could we? She smiled at her guests. Children today have no discipline. Mill locked my children in the garage so they wouldn't embarrass her guests. Hi, I'm Emery. Today I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. You think you know someone after 8 years. You think when they smile at your wedding, coo over your babies, and call themselves Grammy, they actually love your children. But some people wear masks so well that by the time you see their real face, the damage is already done. I met Nathan at a cycling club in San Diego. He was an aerospace engineer. I was a pediatric nurse, and we bonded over terrible jokes and weekend rides along the coast. When he mentioned his mother, Constance, lived in La Jolla, I didn't think much of it. Lots of people's parents lived nearby. Our first meeting should have been my warning. Constance Rivers didn't just live in La Jolla, she ruled it. Her house was a monument to wealth and control, every surface gleaming, every object precisely placed. She air-kissed Nathan, then looked me up and down like she was appraising livestock. A nurse, she said, making it sound like I cleaned toilets. How practical. Nathan squeezed my hand. Mom's a bit traditional. She'll warm up. She didn't. For 2 years, every interaction was a subtle dig. My clothes were interesting. My family was quaint. My career was admirable for someone of my background, whatever that meant. But Nathan always defended her, saying she just took time to accept new people. When we got engaged, Constance offered to pay for the wedding, with conditions. Her conditions. Guest list had to be approved by her. Venue had to be her country club. Dress had to be from her designer. I pushed back. She threatened to withdraw funding. Nathan begged me to compromise. It's one day, he said. Then we'll have our whole lives our way. I gave in. Our wedding looked like Constance's fantasy. 500 guests I didn't know, a dress that made me look like a meringue, and a reception where she gave a speech about hoping Emery rises to the standards of the Rivers family. But I loved Nathan, and I believed we could build boundaries after marriage. We moved to a house 20 minutes from Constance, far enough for independence, close enough that Nathan didn't feel guilty. I thought we'd found balance. Then came the grandchildren. When our daughter Lily was born, Constance transformed. Suddenly, she was Grammy, cooing over the baby, buying designer clothes, visiting daily. I was exhausted from delivery and grateful for help, even if it came with commentary about my breastfeeding technique and how the nursery was decorated poorly. At least she loves Lily, I told myself. That's what matters. But love and control looked identical in Constance's world. She enrolled Lily in music classes without asking, bought furniture that didn't match our home, insisted on professional photos every month because proper families document milestones correctly. When I got pregnant with our son Max, Constance's control intensified. She hired a night nanny without consulting us, saying I looked too tired to handle 2 children. She rearranged our kitchen to her standards. She even tried to convince Nathan we should move to a house on her street, one she'd already picked out. Mom's just excited, Nathan always said. She means well. The garage incident happened when Max was 2 and Lily was 4. Constance was hosting her monthly book club, 20 women who spent more time gossiping about absent members than discussing literature. She'd asked to have it at our house because her kitchen was being renovated. Of course the children will need to stay quiet, she said. These are important women. The mayor's wife, the hospital board president. We can't have disruptions. They'll be fine, I assured her. Lily loves when people visit, and Max will probably nap through it. The day started well. I'd dressed the kids nicely, Lily in a sunflower dress, Max in tiny khakis. They were excited about Grammy's friends coming over. Lily had even practiced saying, "Welcome to our home." But when the first guests arrived, Constance's demeanor changed. She physically blocked Lily from greeting them. "Children should be seen, not heard," she said firmly. "Go play in your room." But Grammy, I wanted to say hi. Now, Lily. I intervened. It's okay, sweetie. Let's go color while Grammy's friends get settled. For an hour, the kids played quietly in Lily's room. Then Max got hungry. I brought them to the kitchen for snacks, trying to stay out of the living room where the book club was gathered. But Max dropped his sippy cup, and it rolled toward the living room. No! Constance appeared instantly. Get them out of here! He just dropped his cup. They're filthy! Look at Max's hands. Is that peanut butter? These women don't need to see your inability to keep children clean. They're toddlers eating snacks, I said, bewildered. A little peanut butter is normal. Normal for you, perhaps. She grabbed both children's hands. Come with Grammy. I assumed she was taking them back to Lily's room. I cleaned up the kitchen, then went to check on them. The room was empty. I checked Max's room, the playroom, our bedroom. Nothing. Growing concerned, I walked back toward the kitchen and heard it. Muffled crying from behind the garage door. I tried the handle. Locked. Why are my children in the garage? I asked, my voice deadly calm as I heard muffled crying through the door. They were being disruptive, my mother-in-law Constance replied smoothly, adjusting her diamond necklace. My book club doesn't need to hear shrieking children. They're 2 and 4 years old, and this door is locked from the outside. Well, we couldn't have them wandering back in, could we? She smiled at her guests. Children today have no discipline. I saw red. I grabbed the key from the hook and yanked open the door. The garage was dark and cold. It was October in San Diego, which meant the unheated garage was maybe 55 degrees. Lily was huddled in the corner with Max, trying to keep him warm. Both were crying. Mommy! Lily ran to me. Grammy said we were too loud and embarrassing. She said we had to stay here until the ladies left. It's dark, Max sobbed. And cold. Want out. I carried Max and held Lily's hand, marching straight into the living room full of book club women. This woman, I announced, just locked my 2 and 4-year-old children in a cold, dark garage because she didn't want you to see them. Is this the kind of person you want in your book club? The room exploded. Some women looked horrified. Others tried to excuse it as discipline. And Constance went into damage control mode. Emery's being dramatic. They were in timeout for misbehaving. In a locked garage, without light, without heat. For what crime? Dropping a sippy cup? You're embarrassing yourself, Constance hissed. And me. Good. You should be embarrassed. Get out of my house. All of you. The book club scattered like startled birds. Constance tried to stay, but I stood in the doorway holding my children until she left. When Nathan came home, I was still shaking with rage. Your mother locked our children in the garage, I told him. In the dark, in the cold, because they might embarrass her. That doesn't sound like Mom. Nathan, I found them there. Lily told me what happened. Your mother prioritized impressing her friends over our children's safety. Maybe she just needed them out of the way for a minute. In a locked garage? Would you put a dog in there? He called Constance. I heard her version through the phone. I was overreacting. The children were misbehaving. It was barely 5 minutes. The garage wasn't that cold. Nathan's face went through several expressions before he hung up. She says you're blowing this out of proportion. And you believe her? I don't know what to believe. She's my mother. And these are your children, who were locked in a garage. That night, I made 2 decisions. 1, Constance would never be alone with my children again. 2, I needed to document everything. I took the kids to their pediatrician the next day. Dr. Patel examined them carefully, noting Max's mild hypothermia symptoms and both children's emotional distress. She documented everything and asked gentle questions that revealed this wasn't the first time Grammy had used harsh punishments. Sometimes Grammy puts us in the closet when we're bad, Lily whispered. My blood ran cold. What closet, baby? The one in her house, when we visit and make noise. Dr. Patel's report was thorough. She recommended immediate therapy for both children and noted that isolation in dark, cold spaces constituted child endangerment. I started keeping a journal, documenting every interaction. The time Constance made Lily stand in the corner for an hour for laughing too loudly. The day she took Max's favorite toy and threw it in the trash because he wouldn't stop playing to greet her properly. The afternoon she told both children that Mommy doesn't really love them because I worked full-time. Nathan didn't want to believe it at first, but then he witnessed it himself. Constance was babysitting while I had a rare evening shift. Nathan came home early to find Max locked in the bathroom, crying hysterically, while Constance watched TV. "He wouldn't stop asking for mommy," she explained casually. "A little time out teaches independence." "He's 2 years old, and you locked him in?" "The door wasn't locked," she lied. But Nathan had heard Max screaming, "Can't open door! Grammy, please!" He finally saw what I'd been seeing. We banned Constance from babysitting. She exploded, calling us ungrateful, saying we were denying her grandparent rights. She started a campaign among family and friends, painting us as cruel adult children, keeping her from her grandchildren. Then she escalated. She began showing up at Lily's preschool, trying to take her for special Grammy days. The school, following our instructions, wouldn't release Lily to her. So Constance told the teachers I was an unfit mother, that Nathan was considering divorce and custody would go to her. She called CPS with anonymous reports about neglect and abuse. We were investigated 3 times. Each time the social workers found nothing because there was nothing to find, but each investigation was traumatic, invasive, and humiliating. She sued for grandparents' rights, claiming we were alienating her from the children. Her lawyer argued that she'd been a loving, involved grandmother who was suddenly cut off for no reason. Our lawyer, Patricia Huang, was worth every penny. "Document everything," Patricia advised. "Every text, every email, every witness to her behavior." The court case was brutal. Constance hired experts to testify about the importance of grandparent relationships. She had character witnesses, society friends who'd never seen her with the children, but would swear she was devoted. She even had a child psychologist argue that children need extended family connections. But we had evidence, Dr. Patel's reports, therapy notes showing both children's fear of dark spaces and time out, preschool documentation of Constance's attempts to circumvent our authority. The CPS reports that, while finding no abuse by us, noted the children's consistent stories about Grammy's punishments. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Constance's housekeeper, Maria, reached out to Patricia. She'd worked for the Rivers family for 15 years and had stories about Nathan's childhood that made my stomach turn. Locked in closets for hours, made to stand outside in the cold for talking back, food withheld as punishment. "I stayed quiet when it was Mr. Nathan," Maria testified. "I was young, needed the job, but seeing her do it to new babies? No, not again." Nathan broke down during Maria's testimony. Memories he'd suppressed came flooding back. The garage incident wasn't discipline gone too far. It was Constance's standard parenting method, passed down like a toxic heirloom. The judge denied Constance's petition entirely. No visitation rights, no contact except what we chose to allow, and a recommendation that she seek psychological evaluation. Constance's world imploded. The court transcripts became public record. Her book club friends learned exactly what kind of person locked toddlers in garages. The country club whispered about her methods with her own son. The charity boards quietly suggested she step down. Her society friends, the ones she'd tried so hard to impress by hiding my embarrassing children, they distanced themselves overnight. Turns out even wealthy women draw the line at child abuse. Nathan went into intensive therapy, processing decades of trauma he'd normalized. He discovered that what he'd thought was traditional discipline was actually systematic abuse. His father, Richard, had enabled it by silence, just as Nathan almost had. Speaking of Richard, he finally grew a spine. After 40 years of marriage, he filed for divorce. He told Nathan he'd been too weak to protect him as a child, but he wouldn't stand by and watch it happen to another generation. He moved to a condo in Phoenix and started rebuilding his relationship with Nathan from scratch. Constance's empire crumbled. Without Richard's income and with legal bills mounting, she had to sell the La Jolla mansion. Her attempts to maintain appearances failed. You can't host charity galas from a 2-bedroom apartment in El Cajon. The last time we saw her was at a grocery store 6 months after the court ruling. She looked older, smaller somehow. Her perfect clothes were gone, replaced by simple slacks and a cardigan. She saw us across the produce section and started to approach, then noticed the security guard watching. We'd filed a restraining order after she'd shown up at our house drunk, screaming about her rights. Lily hid behind my leg. Max, too young to fully remember but sensing his sister's fear, clung to my hand. Constance stood there, frozen between the organic apples and conventional ones, watching the family she'd thrown away to maintain an image that no longer existed. We left without buying anything. The kids didn't need to be in the same space as her, not even a public one. Nathan and I rebuilt our marriage from the foundation up. We moved to Portland, where no one knew the river's name and couldn't be influenced by Constance's version of events. We found therapists who specialized in childhood trauma, for all of us, because trauma doesn't just affect the direct victims, it ripples out, touching everyone in its path. Lily, now 7, still sometimes asks why Grammy was mean. I tell her age-appropriate truths, that some people don't know how to love without hurting, that it wasn't her fault, that mommy and daddy will always keep her safe. She's in therapy, learning that love doesn't come with locks. Max, 5 now, doesn't remember much, but he still hates dark spaces and needs a nightlight. We're working on it, slowly, gently. He knows he's safe now. I sometimes get emails from Constance through various channels. She creates new accounts when we block the old ones. They range from rage-filled rants about ungrateful children to syrupy pleas about missing her grandchildren. I document them all for our lawyer, but never respond. She made her choice every time she turned a lock on a terrified child. People sometimes say we're too harsh, that she's old now, alone, that grandparents make mistakes. They say we should forgive for the children's sake. That family is family. Here's what I tell them. Family doesn't lock toddlers in dark garages. Family doesn't prioritize appearances over children's tears. Family doesn't traumatize generations and call it discipline. Constance wanted to hide my children like shameful secrets, stuff them in dark corners so they wouldn't embarrass her. Instead, she exposed herself as the real embarrassment, a woman so concerned with image that she'd sacrifice her own grandchildren to it. My children aren't embarrassments to be hidden. They're loud, messy, beautiful, silly, perfectly imperfect little humans who deserve to take up space in this world. They deserve to spill sippy cups and laugh too loudly, and have peanut butter on their hands without being locked away like inmates. So, here's my question for you. If someone showed you through actions that your children were inconveniences to be hidden rather than treasures to be celebrated, would you keep giving them chances? Or would you protect those babies from anyone who sees their existence as an embarrassment?